I run 4 times a week, so why am I still fat? If you saw my video last week, then you will know that I strained my calf doing parkrun at what was probably my maximum effort. Was that a stupid thing to do 2 weeks before the Manchester Marathon? Perhaps, but I think it may have gone regardless. Anyway, this means I'm not running this week, so it gives me the opportunity to do a video I've been thinking about for a while: running and weight loss. Disclaimer time, what I say in this video relates solely to my own experiences. I am not an expert, nor am I giving you advice. After all, given that I am still overweight, any advice I give probably wouldn't be particularly useful anyway. If you find some of what I say resonates with you, great. It's kind of nice for me to know that others are the same as me, but always ensure you follow up any plans for your own health and well-being with your own research, or talk to someone that actually knows what they're doing. I started running seriously in 2023 when I was at my heaviest. Now, we're not talking huge. I was 103 kilograms at the time, but at 5'9"-ish, that was the point that things were starting to become uncomfortable. Clothes were not fitting right, tying my shoes were a chore, the stairs were becoming a little more laborious, and day-to-day life just that bit more challenging. The difficulties mainly came because my weight is around the belly and thighs. This makes me very grateful for the 2-in-1 running shorts and their anti-chafing properties. Now, over the next 2 years of consistent running, I did lose weight. My uniform became looser. I was able to get into a smaller size of trousers. I was able to see things below the waist that hadn't been seen properly in some time, such as my feet. But despite increasing my running load since then, particularly in the last 6 months for marathon training, I haven't seen any further change in my weight on the scales. I got my weight down to around 91 kilograms, losing roughly 12 kilograms in total, but it hasn't dropped any further since, hence the title of this video. I run 4 times a week, so why am I still fat? Well, I think there's a few reasons for this. I think it's fair to say that people run for a lot of similar reasons: mental well-being, fitness, weight loss, the ability to perform better in bed. But there is probably also an expectation of achieving a particular body image. When we see professional runners or high-level running influencers on social media, they often look like very fit people. Well, that's because they are. But the body image they have comes from being very fit, lean, fast, muscular. Some, especially professional runners, will likely have people to support them: dieticians, physiotherapists, coaches, all with the aim of getting the athlete to the best they can be. When an average person like me runs, it's not unreasonable to think that maybe, with enough hard work, I'll look like that eventually. Well, maybe it is. As someone approaching 50, keeping my weight down is already a biological challenge. Nature and time are against me. Of course, there are always people who do achieve this through sheer determination and hard work. Paddymcguiness has recently gone through quite the physical transformation, and he has put a lot of effort into his diet and weight training and followed the 75 hard method to improve his physical status. It does mean we get photos of him looking like he recognises someone but can't quite remember their name though. The reality is, if you just run, as I do, with perhaps some strength work, you will probably not end up looking like the fast influencers or athletes you admire, nor will you achieve the transformation that Paddy has done, as, to be fair to him, he put in a lot of effort for that. Most of the physical improvements you can expect from running alone will be in your legs and buttocks, as those are the primary muscle groups being exercised when running. You will likely lose some weight and you'll get some cracking quads, but that overall body image comes from much more than just running, which leads me on to my next point. Running primarily improves your cardiovascular function. Yes, there are other benefits: stronger legs, increased endurance, the ability to climb the stairs 2 at a time, but that's kind of it. During training for the Manchester Marathon, I recently ran a half marathon distance, and aside from taking my gels, I have never mastered running and taking a gel at the same time. I essentially ran the entire thing non-stop. No, it wasn't the Ironbridge half. There was lots of walking at the Ironbridge half.
There's an absolute beast of a hill in front of us. As soon as this van moves, I'll show you. There you go. Check that out.
Curse you, Station Road. But despite being able to do that run, if you asked me to go and swim a significant distance in a pool or bike up a mountain, I would certainly have a base fitness to start from, but I would be unlikely to sustain these different activities for any length of time. That definitely means a triathlon is not on the cards for me anytime soon. Plus, you do not want to see me in a wetsuit. Part of that reduced endurance would be technique. Being an efficient swimmer is a challenge in itself, and incorrect form will rapidly drain your energy levels, meaning you simply couldn't swim as far. But that also goes for swimmers who start running. The techniques are vastly different, but they will have that base fitness to work from, but not necessarily the endurance in the muscle groups they are not used to putting under pressure. Now, those that are already very fit, say running a sub-3 marathon, can probably apply that fitness to most activities they do without any particular difficulty. But for an average person like me, it is really a challenge. When starting a new physical activity and sticking at it consistently, most people will see an initial period of weight loss, simply because this is an additional way of burning calories, assuming you aren't upping your calorie intake a comparable amount. Regardless of what activity you do to maintain or lose weight, you may well reach a plateau. Essentially, what you are taking in versus what you are burning off will reach a balance whereby you are neither losing nor gaining weight. Having varied forms of physical activities will help, but ultimately you will still reach that balance level again. It just depends on whether you're happy with where that balance sits. If you're not, then something else has to change, either pushing harder or longer with the physical activity, therefore burning more calories, or making changes to your dietary intake or the actual physical activity you choose to do. But sometimes that plateau or balance is merely a figure that you see on the scales. Utilizing different methods of tracking your weight loss can show you that whilst the figure on the scale still sits at 91 kilograms, you are actually leaner and reducing your body fat percentage compared to muscle. A lot of people talk about how muscle weighs more than fat, but that isn't true. A pound of fat weighs the same as a pound of feathers and the same as a pound of muscle. They all weigh a pound. It's just that a pound of fat takes up much more space. As muscle is much denser, it is smaller in size than a comparative weight of fat, so the human body is slimmer but weighs the same amount. I've no idea how feathers are involved in this. As I say, using different methods of tracking weight, or rather fat loss, are often preferable to figures on the scales. Taking body measurements can show subtle areas of fat loss over time, or some weighing scales give you a body fat percentage. But more simple options are: do your clothes feel bigger? Is your waist feeling smaller? Do you need another hole in your belt to stop your trousers falling down? I did. Taking a regular body photograph of yourself definitely helps to show your body composition has changed over time, because the changes are often not drastic, typically taking many months to happen, and that slow progression can be difficult to see, which is often disheartening initially. Yes, I have photos. No, I am not showing you. Diet clubs like Weightwatchers or Slimmingworld rely on people reducing the figures on the scales, as that is the primary motivation that they offer.
You nearly had your half stone sticker.
Certificates and awards for weight loss are a great motivation for those that attend these groups and encourages them to keep attending. As long as it is done in a healthy way, then any planned weight loss is a real achievement, and I give my unreserved congratulations to anyone that is able to do it, especially if they can sustain it long term. That, after all, is the real challenge. And let's be realistic, I think most people going to diet groups are just looking to lose a bit of weight and improve their appearance, health and well-being. They are not necessarily seeking to run a marathon. That crazy idea may well come later though. Making permanent and sustainable changes to your lifestyle is neither a cheap nor easy thing to do. Gym memberships are expensive, going for a swim is very pricey. Even running becomes a costly hobby when you look at everything involved. Whilst we are busy trying to budget for good physical fitness, we are constantly bombarded with adverts for attractive but unhealthy foods, and eating well is also expensive and time consuming. Which leads me on to my final point and the root of why I haven't lost more weight. The biggest reason for me and why I haven't lost any more weight, or rather why my fat loss seems to have stalled, I've still got a lot of areas that jiggle when I run, I believe comes down to diet. My diet is not great. Much of the food I eat sits in the processed category, and that is often out of convenience and financial pressures. I very rarely have takeaway, it's just too expensive, but I don't very often cook from fresh either, favouring frozen foods that are, quite simply, easier to cook and more convenient. I am aware that there are other options that I could try that would probably be both financially more viable and nutritionally rounded for me, such as batch cooking, but so far I haven't found a sustainable way to get such things into my already busy life. There are other options I could introduce, such as food alternatives like huel that allow you to replace one of your meals while still being provided with the nutrients required. My understanding is that this would typically replace a midday meal, i.e. sandwich and crisps, rather than your main meal, but the daily cost of huel is much higher than the cost of a homemade sandwich and crisps, making it difficult to make such a change. I have a very poor relationship with bread, and I eat way too much of it. Bread products are often the items reduced in supermarkets at the end of the day, and it can be difficult to avoid buying those nice rolls that Morrison's do when they are so cheap, which means they are then eaten late at night, which is especially bad for you. Healthy foods are almost never reduced in price at the end of the working day, and whilst I'm not saying I'm in that position, food poverty is a very real thing for many and involves bulking out meals with nutritionally limited but filling items such as pasta, potatoes or bread. Simply put, it is significantly cheaper to buy a frozen pizza and chips than it is to prepare a more nutritionally beneficial meal. It also takes significantly less time or effort. Going back to Paddy's transformation, I suspect it's a little easier to eat well when you're worth £8.2 million. I mentioned earlier that when reaching a plateau, something needs to change, either increase the physical activity or decrease or alter the dietary intake.
Salad?
I am not fooling myself that my 91 kilograms is staying there because it's changing from fat to muscle. I've still got plenty of fat round the middle. I am the weight I am because my diet is poor. I'm not the weight I was at my heaviest because I've been doing lots of running. But if I want to lose more weight and sustain it, I think the NHS recommendation for somebody my height would be around 80 kilograms, then something else needs to change, and I really can't be bothered with swimming. Regardless of whether I can run the marathon this Sunday, my overall training load will reduce somewhat afterwards. My aim going forward is to improve my 5k time, but I have to be careful. If I am reducing my overall load but not adjusting my diet, will my weight go back up? If I'm focusing on the typically harder but shorter 5k training, will I be burning more calories and fat and developing more muscle, but will I then eat more in response? What I do know is that the primary thing within my control that can have a direct impact on my weight is my diet. And working towards a more balanced, sustainable way of living should be my ultimate aim going forward. Of course, it wouldn't hurt to throw in some different activities, perhaps a racket sport or competitive tiddlywinks. Thanks for listening to me ramble on. If you haven't already, drop me a like, subscribe if you've yet to do so. I'm nearly at 200 subscribers and I'd love to get there as soon as possible. All the best. Thanks for coming, and if I don't see you before, have a nice Christmas. Ta-ra.